We're talking judo with Mr. Andre Rosa. He's the president of Judo Global Sao Tome and Principe. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm very happy to be here with you and to share some of my opinions and my view over judo and over judo in the Olympic Games in Paris.
Thank you very much for joining us. We spoke last September about all the great work that's happening in both Sao Tome and Principe as far as judo and judo global and the work you and your team have been doing. Obviously, we follow you on Instagram. I'm a fan of a lot of the content you put out in the videos. It's very cool to see. First question for you, Andre, is since our last interview, could you share any developments or achievements or updates you want to highlight as far as judo global in Sao Tome and Principe?
Yeah, of course. I'm very happy to, and thank you for your words. We are doing everything we can to develop judo and to develop judo from Sao Tome and Principe. And I'm very happy to be part of this history being made in the judo in the country. We started almost from scratch, and it's very rewarding to be part of this history that we are making. And since September, so in October of last year, we opened 2 new judo schools in São Tomé. So our headquarters is on Principe Island. We opened the first judo school in São Tomé with our brand, we can say, or with our methodology in 2022. And in October of last year, we opened 2 new judo schools in São Tomé. So it was very good to increase the opportunity of the Santomeans to practice judo. Having more schools make us possible to have more students, and this is one of the best ways to develop the judo in the country and to have more people doing judo in the country. Then we continue to participate in international competitions. So in April, we went to Luanda, to the Luanda Open. And this was very important because we have athletes not only participating in the senior age group, but also in the cadets and in juniors. This was the first time we had international participations in the cadets and the junior age groups. And this is our goal is to give opportunities to the youngsters to then they can grow and they can develop to be in a high level competition when they are older. And so to give them the opportunity to practice more, to learn more, and then when they get to the senior level, they will be in a better position to achieve their goals, to have better sport results, and also to know the world and to have other opportunities to be better people to the society around them. That's always our goal. And since I was an international athlete as well, I know that these participations are very important to open the minds of the youngsters, especially youngsters that live in a small country like São Tomé and Principe.
Fascinating. Can you tell us how many athletes, as far as cadets and juniors, were participating? Give us a rough number. If you want to mention any names, that would be great. And what's the sort of response you've gotten from them about this opportunity to represent and compete?
Exactly. So to Luanda, we went with 2 cadets, 2 juniors and 2 seniors to the Luanda Open. So this was the first time for some of the participants of our team. This is the first time they get into a plane. So to be more aware of the achievement that this represents, especially for their personal lives. and it was very good. We have a very good relationship with the Angolan Judo Federation, so we stayed for 2 weeks there, training with the Angolan team. That it's one of the best in Africa. So it was a lot of new experiences for our team, and this was a really open-minded experience for them to understand how a high-level athlete behaves, how what they need to do if they want to achieve that level, what they need to do to achieve this goal. So it was very important for all of them to be there. And we had in the cadets we had Clayton Veloso in the under 60 kilos, and Lydia Pont, a female athlete, in the under 57. Then in the juniors, we had a 60 kilos called Nelson Pina, and a 73 kilos Sergio Ferreira. And then in the seniors, the 66 Magnei Deiton do Lua, and in 73 Roldeney Oliveira. That will be our first participation in the Olympic Games in Paris.
Wow. Can you speak to us as far as the dynamic and the relationship between the Angolan judo and judo global? Like, can you elaborate on that? Like, is there like an official sort of relationship? Do you guys share ideas or training camps, so on and so forth?
Between judo and who?
The Angolan, you spoke about you were there for 2 weeks prior on training camp. So if you can kind of elaborate on if there's like a good relationship, if there's some sort of partnership that's flourishing.
Yeah, we have a protocol signed between both judo federations. Judo Global of São Tomé and Príncipe is the national judo federation from São Tomé and Príncipe, and we have a protocol signed with the Angolan Judo Federation. We have a very good relationship. It's a close country. There's a lot of Santomeans living in Angola. There's a lot of Angolans living in São Tomé and Príncipe. So there's a familiarity between the two countries, and we speak the same language. And the federation, the members of the Angolan Judo Federation are very open and very helpful to us, especially to us. We want to help them as well, but in the level that they are helping us a lot more than we are helping them so far. But we hope in the future we'll be able to give back all the good opportunities that they are giving us. And yeah, we have a good relationship with the president, with the vice president, with all the coaches. There's some Angolan athletes in Portugal as well, and some São Tomé and Príncipe athletes in Portugal too. So we share a lot of moments with them, and this relationship is very important to what we've done so far with our athletes in representing São Tomé and Príncipe internationally.
I think it's really cool and important that there's that mutual welfare, and support amongst these different teams. I think it's always a good story to highlight that, especially when it comes to trying to develop a sport, right? Showcasing different styles and all that. I think it's valuable across the board. And if I can step aside and quickly say that Angola really seems to have, when it comes to combat sports, I think I mentioned this before, they seem to have a big audience of fans of Angolan combat sports, but in general, they're really investing in it seems like they're investing in various sports, including judo. But that's great. Thank you very much for that update. Andre, I want to jump right into the subject of the Paris 2024 Olympics, and the whole world is expecting this major sporting event, which is going to go down in less than a week. first question is, are you excited?
Of course, very excited. I always was a fan of the Olympic Games, and for sure, these Olympic Games have a sweeter taste since it's the first time we have a Santomian athlete representing the country in the judo sport. So I am very excited to watch the games. And so to make you understand, my father was an Olympic coach. He was the Olympic coach for Portugal in Sydney, in Athens, in Beijing, and in London.
Wow.
So the Olympic spirit was always very vivid in my life. So since a young age, my father was an Olympic athlete too in Los Angeles '84. So the Olympic spirit was always around my education, and I was always very excited to watch the games. And in Sydney, Portugal won the first medal in judo, and my father was the coach. So this was a moment that I will always remember. So to be part of the Olympic history, representing São Tomé and Principe, and in doing a project that it's very rewarding, and I have a lot of work to make it possible. The Paris 2024 will be probably another landmark in my life as well. It's I'm very excited, of course. Yeah, to resume.
Very, very interesting. I the first time I interviewed, I was unaware of all that. In terms, I know, I think you spoke of your dad being a judo coach and a judoka and so forth, but I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, you had mentioned that he was a coach of the national team for what, 3 or 4 Olympics, the national team for Portugal. So thank you very much for sharing that. If you don't mind me asking, can you give us, let's go back to Sydney. You said Portugal produced its first ever medalist at the Olympics. Can you tell us who that athlete was and what you recall from your dad's story of that momentous moment?
So, so my father was always a hard worker person, and that's one of the things that I take from him.
Mm.
And my father's name is Rui Rosa. And in Sydney, there was some hopes for Portugal to win a medal. So in the 73 kilos, um, the European champion was Portuguese, Michel Almeida, and he gets the 7th place in the Olympic Games. So very good result, the best result for the Portuguese judo so far. And in the next day, we had the 81 kilograms category, and the athlete was Nuno Delgado, and he was European champion, but in two years before. So in that day, he won the bronze medal for Portugal, and this was the first medal for the Portuguese judo in the Olympic Games. And to have my father being the coach, I was very proud to 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 see this moment to happen. Yeah.
Almeida, I believe, was coaching the Canadian team, was he not?
Yeah. Of
Oh,
course,
wow.
yes.
Wow. What a small world.
Exactly.
Very
Yeah.
cool. Very cool.
Mhm.
Thank you very much for that. And let's dive into it. We want to hear your thoughts on, as far as African representation and expectations at the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. There's
Mhm.
24 African countries. What are your expectations for African athletes in terms of performance and, dare I say, medal prospects?
Exactly. So we can see an analysis here. So we will have 43 athletes from the African Judo Union. In total, there are 378 athletes in total. So 43 will be from the African Judo Union. And if we do an analysis, we can see that we have no African judoka in the top 8. So in the top 8 athletes, they are seeded, so they will not face each other in the first round. They will only meet another seeded athlete in the quarterfinals. So this is not the best place to start. So it's always better to be seeded. Although we have some good athletes participating. So the ones that I think that have the best chances and they are doing a great performance in this Olympic cycle. The first one I would say Driss from Algeria. He's only 22 years old and he's in the 73 kilograms category. And during this qualification period, he had very good results. So, for instance, he was African champion in the last 2 editions. So in 23 and in 24, he was the African champion. And another thing that he achieved is to have a medal in the IJF World Circuit. So he has a silver medal in the Zagreb Grand Prix in 2023. And this is a great achievement. And I think he has very good chances to have a good result. Any question about this athlete? So I know he takes a lot of time in France. So as we know, France has a very good quality of judo, and the games will be in France. So maybe this can be an advantage for him as well, hopefully, of course.
Yeah, quick question in regards to that particular division for Dries. What sort of advice would you recommend as a coach? Because it's I mean, every weight division for men or women is stacked with talent, right? And obviously he's risen to the occasion, as you just listed, his achievements, and he has a lot of potential. He's young, and as you mentioned, he's training in France. What sort of advice would you give him on the biggest day of his career thus far, which is the Paris 2024 Olympics? What sort of advice would you give him generally?
Well, of course, this type of advice depends a lot in the athlete that we have in front of us. I don't know him personally, but of course we need to, well, as a coach, the coach must know the athlete that he has in front of him, and the coach will know better what type of advice they need to give depending on the athlete that we have. But one thing that we can see is that he is very young, only 22 years old. So normally the peak of a judo career is in the 26. So I would say that his peak would be in the next Olympic cycle. So maybe this can take some pressure from him, and to take this pressure can be a positive thing as well, depending on the athlete that we have. Some athletes perform better with pressure, some others perform better without pressure. So this would depend a lot in the type of athletes that we have. But maybe since he's very young, to make him conscious that he still has a lot of roads to walk, and to know that this is a step to achieve his peak. Maybe this could take some pressure from him if I would see that the pressure was being negative for his performance.
It's interesting that's very interesting comments and perspectives you're sharing there, because I've gone back and I've heard a lot of former Olympians who've competed at the games. One of the advices that I keep hearing from some of them, in majority, is be in the moment, soak it all in, have fun, because one of the themes is that everything happens so fast, right?
Exactly.
That sometimes people forget to live in the now, be in the moment, don't let your mind take you, 10 minutes ahead or an hour ahead. Like, be in the present, and having fun is something I'm glad, like, and you're absolutely right. It depends who you're coaching. And you don't know them personally, as you said, but I always enjoy hearing coaches' perspectives on how they would deal, with athletes. But those are two excellent points. From Algeria, are there any other? I think there's two other athletes, Belkadi
Yeah.
and Lily. But
Mhm.
are there any other athletes from that country that you wanted to
Yeah.
highlight?
Yeah, I think Belkadi has good chances as well, since she won a medal recently in a Grand Slam, a bronze medal in the Dushanbe Grand Slam. So the Grand Slam is one of the most difficult competitions in the circuit. So this gives us some hope for this athlete as well. So she has a good experience in African championships as well. So she won already 5 African titles. She's a bit older, so 31 years old. So maybe the experience can work on her side, and maybe to give her some pressure if needed. Those are maybe her last Olympic Games, the first
Right.
and the last maybe.
Wow.
So depends on the athlete that we have. If we see that, if the coach sees he must uh, put some pressure on to make the athlete to understand the moments where she is.
Mhm.
So this could be an argument
Now,
to
quick question for you in regards to her. As you mentioned, she's 31, Amina Belkadi. She's fighting in the under 63 kilos. She's
exactly.
never been to the Olympics. She's going to be there for the first time. What do you think that means for someone like her, or anyone, quite frankly, at that age, to finally make it to the big show, to the Olympics? What does that mean for them?
I believe this is a dream come true, and it's good to control, to don't be too overwhelmed about these moments, and to perform well. But I believe this is, only to participate is a dream come true. So to perform well, I hope she is very focused in what she can do there, to not only to participate but to have a good result and to have a good performance. It's important to manage the emotions and the feelings to be in the best um, mind, strong mind possible. It's as you said, everything decides in one day,
Mhm.
so everything will be decided on that day, and to be in the best performance depends not only in the tactic and in the physical aspect, but the mental aspect is very important as well.
Absolutely. So we from Algeria, we've got Dries and we've got Belkadi. We wish them both, obviously, all the best at the games. We're going to move on now. If you have any other, I don't know how extensive your list is, but if you can tell us who you have next on your list.
Yeah. So the list that I chose four, so two,
Okay. Okay.
two male and two female.
Perfect. Gender
So
balance. That's great.
exactly. So the next one that I want to mention is Sami from Egypt,
Wow.
60 kilos.
Okay.
very young, only 21 years old, and with some very interesting results already. So only 21, already in the Olympic Games, uh, with with a medal in the with a bronze medal in the World Championships for juniors in 2023. This is interesting, and he is double. Actually, he is double African champion in 2023 and 22. So for his age, very good results, and the performance uh, that I can see from him in some competitions that I had the opportunity to watch. I like the way he fights. I think he has very good technique, but also very strong mind.
Mm.
So I believe he's one of the African judokas to be aware, to watch during the next games, and still very young, even younger than Dries. So I hope he will have a good career, not only a good performance now, but a good career. And I believe he has a lot of time to develop and to be even better.
So far, your selection has been awesome, by the way, because I follow these athletes obviously on as far as African judo, and even the African Judo Union has done a really excellent job on the social media side. I've noticed as of January of this year, they've really pumped up their game,
Yeah.
and they've identified a lot of talent. And a lot of people who go out there and put some effort, including this individual here, Sammy from Egypt. If can you elaborate a bit more on his style? How would you describe him, his overall fighting approach for those who may not be familiar with him?
Yeah, I would say he's a very hard worker athlete. So always looking for the attack, to attack first and the opponents, to do strong attacks. So I would say his style is more about this, trying to be always the first to attack. Very strong grips, and I would say with a very strong mind too. Sometimes losing the match with a Vasari and always going forward to change the results and to look for the win. So I enjoy to watch him fight, not only because of his technique but his attitude. He's always going forward, attacking, and strong-minded athlete.
Right.
So that's
Right.
what I see and what I enjoy to watch him.
If I could
Yeah,
echo that, I agree with what you're saying in your description. Absolutely. I think he's also, it seems like he's fearless, he
exactly.
goes for it. He goes for it. He's not, there's no hesitancy. And as you mentioned, he's only 21, and you kind of begin to think he has a nothing to lose mentality. He seems almost like he's having fun out there. This is from the matches that I've seen, and from the
Yeah,
clips and the highlights that I've seen. Have you ever seen him at any tournaments on the continent? Have you seen
yeah.
him live? You have. Okay.
In January, I was in the Portugal Grand Prix, and he achieved the bronze medal, losing the bronze medal to the World Championship silver medal from Taipei.
Okay.
And he had an amazing day. He won um, he won 4 fights, and he was amazing during the whole day, winning against some strong athletes from Italy, for instance, from Spain. He did a very good job during this day.
Andre, question for you as a coach. How do you teach that sort of, as you said, you describe him as being very mentally strong, you can see that in him. How do you teach that in an athlete? Can you teach that in someone, or does that come with their hardware already? Is that a characteristic that comes with them? Because earlier you mentioned, he's a hard worker, right? So is is that the characteristic of someone who's a hard worker? They're probably just wired that way to be, to never give up and to be mentally focused.
Exactly. So there, of course, in every aspect, there's a nature and a nurture side, and the mentality and the mental aspect of an athlete is the same. But there are some things that we can learn, and I believe all the athletes know that during their career they learn to deal with the mental side. Sometimes not the same way they learn to deal with the physical side or the technical side, but I would say that all the athletes would agree that the mental side is something that we learn as well during the time that we compete. And one thing that I find interesting is to learn how to regulate our emotions to have the best performance. And
Wow.
this is very personal. So some athletes would need during that day to feel more aggressive. Some athletes would need to feel more calm. This is a personal regulation, and it's what the coach can do is to help them to navigate through the emotions, to understand the type of emotions that make the athletes to have the best performance, and give them some techniques to help them to regulate during the competition to have the best performance possible, with the and to learn and to understand the type of emotions they must feel to have the best performance. But this takes a lot of time. This takes a lot of self um, self knowledge. So to understand, to know myself, and the of course the coach is the person in the best position to help the athletes to have this discovery and to understand the best regulation they must have during the competition.
The theme, I'm glad you mentioned that, the theme of emotional regulation or regulation in general is it's such a valuable skill. And I'll be honest, as a fan of this sport, it's sometimes it's very hard to just watch and be calm, because some tournaments are so. And I'm just speaking as a fan here, if you don't mind me saying, it's just so hard to watch some fights because it's so intense, and you want to see a particular player win. But at the same time, it's 10 times harder, I would imagine, for that athlete and even the coach alone, right? Because so much is at stake. Do you think for someone like him, do you think he's just he's an athlete who came up through the ranks from, cadet to junior, etc. Was that regulation taught to him earlier on in his career? I guess what I'm asking in your case is, how important is it to instill that self-discovery in self-regulation to athletes at a very young age? Like, is that something you've done yourself to your younger athletes and so on?
Yeah, so since I am aware of this possibility, it's something that's not very planned. It's something that I always try to coach the athletes to go further, or to understand better their feelings and to regulate themselves. But I would say in the coaching aspects in the sport of judo, I would say that the mental side is the more empirical one. So there's a lot of empirical knowledge and great empirical knowledge,
Mm.
but I would say the physical side and the technical side is already more developed in a scientific way. Maybe the technical not much, but especially the physical side is more developed in a scientific way. And the next big step in the judo, and especially in Africa, is to develop the mental side in a more scientific way and in a more organized way to make the athletes to perform better. But the experience I have, speaking with some coaches and traveling around, is that the mental side is very empirical, the way the coaches and the athletes work, especially in our continent. I would say it's quite empirical, but there's always the coaches know the mental power to make an athlete to perform better, and they with the tools that they have, they will do what they can.
It's such a major subject, right? It's sports
Yeah.
psychology is what elite athletes ultimately, it's almost the last chapter in their development is their mind, and for elite high performers, it's what essentially makes them become even better, right? They take it
But
to the next level. If it's in
exactly.
sports, if it's in business, if it's in personal relationships,
Mhm.
it's a
But as
real
you said,
asset.
and your question was very good, because maybe if we as coaches start to develop the athletes since a young age, this mental side, this will make the athletes to train better, to understand better the obstacles they have, what they need to do in a long term, and maybe if, instead of to be the last chapter, if it's the first chapter,
Mm.
maybe we can have better performances, because everything starts first in our minds and then in our physical side. So our minds will lead us to make greater things and to achieve greater goals and dreams.
Well said, my friend. And it's fascinating to hear this because I mean I personally I think to myself, as back in the day when I was that age, if someone as a coach in the sports I was involved in, if I had explored that theme, I think I would have had a different experience in a sport. I think it's also almost tied into like retention of athletes. How do you retain talent, especially at those
Exactly.
younger ages, right? Because people leave sports at certain ages. Predominantly, I don't have the statistic to share, but you hear a lot about athletes leaving once they become teenagers and they move
Exactly.
up to their 20s, they stop. And maybe it's a bad experience they've had and they don't know how to pivot out of that and deal with it. And it's understandable, because at that age, if you don't have those skills, even adults don't have those skills. I must say, it's something we can all benefit from. But it's certainly a large topic. I'm glad we've somewhat touched on it, but I don't want to keep talking too much on this. I do have some additional questions to ask, but before I do, I'm curious to know who's the last athlete you selected for us to
Great.
think about.
Yeah. So the last one is from Morocco, and it's Iraoy, in the 52 kilograms category.
Okay.
So she's 28, probably in her peak in her career, and with amazing results so far. So uh, 4 African Championships titles.
Mhm.
So this is amazing. Since 2018, she won her first senior title, and in the last 2 years, she won the African Championships. So in the qualification period, she was African champion twice. This is amazing. And then with medals in Grand Prix, two medals in Grand Prix. In 2023, she won the silver medal in Zagreb Grand Prix. And in 2019, she won a third place medal, a bronze medal in Tashkent. So we know that for an African athlete to win a medal in the IJF World Tour is a big achievement. And in the IJF World Tour, we have the best athletes. So if they can win a medal there, they have a better chance to win a medal in the Olympic Games as well.
That totally makes sense as far as your benchmark for assessing talent, right? Them winning at on the circuit at the Grand Slam and so on is certainly adds to the case. What does it mean, before we speak a bit more about her, what does it mean for the program as a whole when you're able to produce athletes who can make the podium at a Grand Slam?
Excuse me? So
what does it mean for, like, let's say the Moroccan team or the Algerian team or the Egyptian team? What does it mean for their federation once an athlete makes the podium at a Grand Slam? What does that say about their program, their judo program? When they're able to produce produce medalists, what does that mean for their program overall?
Exactly. Yeah, so as in life, I would say this is a confirmation that what we are doing is being well done. So we must continue and to have more confidence in the work that is being implemented. So to achieve this type of medals must be a good performance indicator to the team that is organizing all the program in these countries, because we see that there's not a lot of African athletes able to win medals in this type of competitions. What I understand, especially the Egyptian Judo Federation, how can I say, communicates that they are very aware to have great results not only in the continent but also in the IJF World Tour and in the judo world. So I believe if these countries can achieve these medals, it's a confirmation that they are producing good athletes and they are doing a good job in their program.
Yeah, they certainly are. The North Africans, I believe all four athletes you mentioned are from North Africa. Of course, we've got Algerians, we've got Egyptians, or pardon me, one Egyptian and one Moroccan. Can you speak more about Irawi stylistically? How would you describe her as a fighter?
Yeah, I would say the style is quite similar to Sami. So always going forward, attacking a lot, strong attacks, and very brave in the way she faces her opponents. So I would say the style, not the same techniques, but I would say the style it's a little bit similar, especially in this kind of judo that it's always looking for the attack. Yeah.
Now, I'm really happy with all four selections, so thank you very much. If you don't mind, may I ask you about a couple of athletes that are also going? Okay, perfect. Curious to know, how much do you know about Silva from Cape Verde? Cape Verde, pardon me, I'm mispronouncing it. I'm sure if you feel free to correct me. How do I pronounce that?
So in Portuguese, you would say Cabo Verde, but yeah, in English it's Cape Verde. Yeah.
Okay, Cape Verde. To tell us a little bit about her, because I've seen some of her matches, and I'm sure you're probably familiar with her. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is my opinion. I know Jamila Silva for a long time. I met her when I was still an athlete. So a lot of years ago, maybe she was a cadet or junior. She came to Portugal, and I remember that in the beginning when she went to Portugal, we were practicing, we were training in the same judo club. So she lives in Portugal. She's from one of the best judo clubs in Portugal, Benfica. It's also a soccer,
right?
yeah, and it's where Telma Monteiro and a big part of the Portuguese team trains. So what I see, I would say she has a great potential, and she, how can I explain this? So she has a great potential, and she can win against strong athletes. But I would say the mental side is what she needs to develop more. And I think she's doing much better now. So I saw her competing in Angola, for instance, and my perception was that mentally she was much stronger in Angola. So I believe she's doing a good job in this emotional regulation, because in previous competitions I saw her losing with some opponents that I would say she was better than they were, especially when in the medal contests. I would say the pressure sometimes would make her lose the game, not the opponent, but the pressure. But in Angola, I saw a different side of Jamila, and I saw her winning the medal in a great style. So I think she's in a good moment in these Olympic Games.
Very interesting. What can you tell us about Dabon from Cote d'Ivoire, under 57 competitor?
Yeah, very experienced with a lot of medals in the African championships. Physically, she has an interesting characteristic. She's very tall, so she works very well with the legs, using the legs to do her techniques. So yeah, I think she's quite strong. Yeah.
And Angola's Pedro in the under 66.
Amazing. Yeah, Pedro is amazing. He's very strong, very technical, very explosive. In the World Championships, he was fighting very well. He won the first match in great style. In the second match, he was winning until the end. I would say it was his mental side. We are talking a lot about the emotions and the psychological side of the sport.
Absolutely, it's a big thing for sure. Yeah,
it is. And I would say in the World Championship, Pedro has everything to win his second match. And I think it was the mental side that made him lose in the last second or last 10 seconds. I don't remember exactly. But he is an amazing athlete, very explosive, amazing techniques. He works, he can throws from every side. So very beautiful to watch him doing judo.
very interesting. Are you familiar with Kisoka from the Democratic Republic of Congo?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as Dabon, he's very tall too, very long legs, and with a posture that makes very difficult for the opponents to throw. So with the awkward position, very sided position. So with a good tactic, he can win against anyone, because he's a quite different style from the other in his category.
Very interesting. I have a few more here real quick, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course.
Now, I know that, I believe it's Guinea. Hold on, I have it here on my list. We've got, it's not, yeah, Guinea-Bissau has a plus 100.
Yeah, Mane.
Mane, yeah. Well, what do you think about him?
So he lives in France too. Well, he lives in France always. So um, I think his grandparents or his grandfather, something like that, he is from Guinea-Bissau, and that's from him that he got the Guinea-Bissau passport. So he has good technique. I saw some Ashiwaza technique, so some sweeps. He won. I saw in a match. I don't remember when, but he has like a finesse in the technique.
Oh wow,
So
okay.
good foot sweeps, good movements. So I like his style. Not very aggressive, more technical style. So it's a nice person to be aware and to watch in the games for sure.
What about South Africa's Jerone Whiteboy?
Yeah, I like her style of judo. I saw that you interview her uh, before me, I think.
I did, yes. I interviewed her almost
Yeah,
2 years ago or something like that.
yeah.
And
Her
she
her her story is very inspirational, I would say.
absolutely, yeah. And it's great to see her, representing her country. The only South African to have made it for judo,
Yeah.
I believe, which is outstanding. Um, I want to ask you two more, if you don't mind.
No
Zambia's
problem.
Simon Zulu, if you could tell us a bit about him, what you know
Mhm.
of him in the under 16.
Exactly. So I saw him, I think he was in Luanda as well. I'm not sure now,
I think so,
but
yeah.
I saw him competing somewhere. And it's interesting to watch him. What can I say? He's very young, so with good technique, he throws to different sides. So yeah, I think it's still very young. I think he has a lot of road to work and to develop. But yes, he's an interesting judoka to watch for sure.
And Guinea's got Mariana Easteves and Marie Brancer. What can you
Mhm.
tell us about them? Like, because I
Yeah,
think these
so
two have a lot of experience.
exactly. So Mariana Esteves, I know her very well too. She's originally she's Portuguese, um, and she she has very nice results. So double gold medal in the African Championships. She's very strong in the Newaza. Very nice to watch her doing Newaza. Amazing skills. I like Newaza, so I like to watch her. And I would say that's the best thing about her is her way to transition from the throwing techniques to the ground techniques.
Mm.
Very impressive. Newaza ground techniques, very impressive. Branson is a complete athlete. I believe originally she's from Germany,
Right.
not sure,
No, you're right. Yeah.
uh, and very strong with very good results, not only in the African Championships but also in the world circuit. So yeah, very strong and with great chances to have and very experienced, good chances to have a good performance in Paris.
Well, thank you very much for answering these additional names that I threw out to you. There's a bunch more, but I don't want to
Yeah,
keep peppering you with questions. I think we wish all of them all the best, of course. I think the four you've identified are as you described them because of their previous performances probably will reach maybe further than expected, although we wish everyone all the best. If you don't mind me asking you, in terms of challenges and opportunities, what are some of the unique challenges that African judokas face in the journey to the Olympics? And how, if how can they be addressed to provide better opportunities for future athletes? I know this is a big question, it's a loaded one, but and I've asked you this before, but it's there's a reason why I ask, because it seems like a recurring theme in judo and possibly every other amateur sport and professional sport
Mhm.
maybe. But what are some of those unique challenges that these athletes
Yeah.
face in their journey?
So from our experience in Saint Tome and Principe, I would say the great challenge is always um, and will end always in the same thing, that it's lack of investment, especially from the government, I would say. So as I know, in Saint Tome and Principe, the country faces a lot of challenges, and a lot of times sports is not a priority to the government. Our job is to engage the government to understand that sports can be more than the results, but it's a part of the education of the population. Is a way as well to create heroes and to make all the population to believe that it's possible to do better and to go to another stage in their lives, if they work in the right direction. So the challenge is to have more investment, especially from the government, and the challenge in a national federation like us is to work to engage not only the government but all the partners to make possible to us to have the experiences needed for our athletes to achieve a good performance. Um, and another challenge is in our country is the infrastructure. So sometimes it's difficult to prepare our athletes in the best conditions. And one thing that we can notice in the best African athletes that we were mentioned before is that some of them are a long part of the year they are away. So they are in Europe, especially, so practicing with the best, and some live all year in a different country, so they have access to better infrastructures. They have access to better or higher level training partners. They have access to participate in more competitions and training camps. So we can see this as well as an opportunity. So especially in Portugal now, there's a lot of immigrants from the former colonies from Africa. So maybe the national federations, and I'm speaking to myself as well as the president, we can scout maybe some athletes that are living abroad that want to represent their original country, and they are an opportunity to develop the judo and the sports representing their country as well. So this can be an opportunity too, and the national federations can be aware of this opportunity, not only to develop judo from the inside out, but also to scout some people that it's living abroad that can represent and then can share some knowledge and some experience with the athletes that are coming from the inside of the country, for instance.
Very interesting answer. Actually, you've also answered my additional question about vision for the future. You know, as far as moving the sport forward in the next decade. Obviously, you speak to us representing Sao Tome and Principe, and Africa has got so many different countries, of course, and it's such a massive continent. But and although you've answered it, I'll still ask you about vision for the future. And you can only speak for yourself and you know your country now. But continentally, what do you think what would you say needs to happen on a continental level as far as judo? Obviously, I believe the African Judo Union, from the content I see, is really doing a lot to push the sport. I believe this is just based on the content that they publish. But from your perspective, what needs to be done in the next decade to really push the potential for the sport on that continent, particularly on the competitive side?
Exactly. So, speaking first from our perspective in Saint Tome and Principe, we are now starting to build um, some solid foundations. So, having the first participation in the Olympic Games, I believe this is a good chance for us to to share the sport, to make the sport more visible in our country, and then for the youngsters, and to have more new participants doing judo. And this is a good way to have a sustainable sport development program, is to always attracting more new practitioners. And if they want, if they can one day, they can be an athlete, and a high level athlete. But all the high level athletes, one day they were white belts, one day it was the first day. So this opportunity for us to have an Olympic participation, uh, I believe it's very important to the way our sport is perceived in our country. And I believe this is a good way to have more new participants for it, and this is very important for us. In terms of the future for our continent in a broader view, of course, we know that it's not that easy to travel around the continent as it is in Europe, for example, or in some other locations in our planet. But this is difficult to control this part. Although I think that there is an opportunity, and the federations could have a strategy to engage the 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 African athletes that are living abroad, and to make them uh, to make them have the opportunity to help in the development of the sport and the country. Although living abroad, they can contribute in a different way, representing their countries, sharing experiences with the youngsters, and to engage everybody as possible to work in the same direction. Uh, I believe it's a good way to develop the sport in our continent. And yeah, so I see a lot of possibilities. I believe the work we are doing is going to continue growing in our country. I believe the next 4 years will be very important for the development of judo in Saint Tome and Principe. And I hope the judo in the world to continue to grow. African Judo Union is doing a great job, as you mentioned in the Instagram, always putting some nice videos. IJF is doing an amazing job as well, making everything more professional. The way the competitions are organized, are broadcasted, are being developed a lot. So I hope this sport, the judo, the sport that I love, to continue to grow, and to continue to make people to have better lives through judo.
Well, my friend, thank you very much for your time and for your input here. We really appreciate it. And tell us where we can follow along for those who may not be fully familiar. Well, I'm sure they are, but tell us where we can follow Judo
Yeah,
Global.
so
Global.
So please follow us on Instagram, Judo Global _STP. So yeah, we try to share everything we do, uh, and to share the work we are being doing. So please follow us on Instagram and reach us out anytime you want. If you want to donate some equipment, if you want to share some ideas, if you have some questions, reach us out there, and we will be very happy to contact you back.
We wish you all the best, obviously in Paris, but also in Los Angeles 2028. That's only 4 years away. 4 years ago was 2020. Remember that? And I mean, time just flies, right? So, keep reaching for the stars, as they say. Thank you very much, my friend. Have a good day.
Thank you, my friend.